welcome to the first Center-led webinar for this academic year. Today, we are going to be discussing a very contemporary, relevant topic of competency and outcome-driven learning. Before we get to the topic and before I introduce the facilitator to you, let me just quickly remind you and take you through a few norms that we will be following throughout the session. First of all, we will, everyone, all of us have been kept on mute and the cameras have been turned off. This is to avoid any kind of distractions during the session. If you have any questions, any query, any concern that comes up, please feel free to put it up in the chat box. Our team will pick it up and will answer them for you. We are trying to maintain the best of connectivity so that we provide you a great experience throughout the session. However, in case there is any kind of fluctuation from our side, we will let you know, we'll keep you posted. And in case you face any audio or video output related issues, please check the connectivity at your end. Usually logging out and logging back in works. So try that and it usually solves the problem of audio or video output related issues. At the end of the session, you will receive a feedback link. When we close the webinar, you will receive a feedback link. I request you all to take 5 minutes of your time to fill the feedback form and submit it. The certificate of participation in the soft copy format will be sent to you into the registered email ID. This is the email ID that you have used to register for this webinar. So you will receive the certificate of participation in that mail ID. All right. So with that, now I have great pleasure in introducing the facilitator for today's webinar, Sudeepa Mondal. Sudeepa Mondal is an eminent educationist and a sought-after teacher trainer. She started her career as a teacher and currently she works with Kotak Education Foundation as their manager for training and content. She has over 18 years of experience in the education domain. And she has been involved in orchestrating engaging learning initiatives and compelling educational materials. She has worked in depth in the Nishta project. She has also worked on digital literacy program and has been a pioneer in supporting and training teachers of schools with resource constraints. She has also created content for NEET coaching for biology. It's a great honor to have Sudeepa here with us today to take us through competency and outcome-driven learning. Sudeepa, all over to you.
Thank you so much. Those words were so motivating and it took me just back to my, career and all that. Firstly, I would like to wish each and everyone present over here and maybe in the process coming in a hearty evening. Let us all have a great learning journey together. I would also like to appreciate the punctuality of our teachers. Without much ado, I'll start. I hope it is the PPT screen is visible to all of you. You have your chat box open, like Shalini ma'am said. So just put a yes, Y for yes. You have to just type a Y. That's it. Don't have to write the entire word. And N for no, if you're able to see the screen. And I would start. So as you have already got the name of the topic, that is competency and outcome driven learning. Thank you so much. I can understand that you all are getting it. I'll take you now through the content. Most of you have been using these words day in and day out. What is competency? What is learning outcome? What is student learning outcome is a day in and day out work for our teachers. So today's agenda is quite connected and around it. Firstly, we are going to discuss about the domains of learning. We are going to understand and design learning outcomes based on Bloom's taxonomy. We are also going to see the guidelines that the National Curricular Framework, NCF, have given us in the form of competency statements. We are also going to see the importance of designing assessments which are connected to the learning outcomes, and also why it is important to have a data-driven decision-making process in the classroom. Also, we are going to see how the 8 pedagogies, which is again a part of the National Curricular Framework and National Education Policy, why pedagogies should be engaging, why pedagogies should be used, and we should have a complete mental change or a mental shift from traditional learning to pedagogy or engagement based learning. We are going to wrap it up and end our session with the very term and a very important term for all us educationists, which is called as the constructive alignment. So that's all for today's agenda. And before we start, let me just check how many of you can very fast get me the correct answers for the jigsaw questions that I have put. There are 5 words which are haphazardly written. So I would like to start with the word one. Can you all write down the correct word for it in the chat box? Let's start. One. What's the first word for one? I'll just wait 1 or 2 answers as I get. I'll proceed. Yeah. Wonderful. It's jigsaw. Very nice. Let's go to number 2. What's number 2? Number 2 is, I have just now told this word. Somebody has written effective. Oh no, it's not effective. I can see pedagogy. Yes. Thank you so much. I have got the second word. It's pedagogy. Now coming to number 3. What's the word? For number 3, what is it? Number 3. Yeah, second answer is going correct. Effective. Is it effective? It's effective. Nice. Number 4. Number 4. Number 4. Diagnostic. Thank you so much. I have got 3-4 answers for diagnostic. And let's have now number 5, the last one. The last one. Number 5. Bloom. Thank you so much. So we have completed the icebreaker for today. And I think more or less we have got the words right. At least we are getting connected to the content. So today's discussion will revolve around all these words. Now I'll be asking you a few questions in the form of images, and I'll just wait after the image, questions of the image. You have to type your answer in the chat box. Okay? Yes, you will be able to see my screen. Wait. You have seen this first image and you have seen this second image. Now the question is, identify which of the two can prepare its own food. Who can prepare its own food, the left or the right? You mean to say the tiger can prepare its own food, the lion can prepare its own food? Can prepare its own food. Yes, I have got the correct answer. That's a plant. That's true. And a big clap to all of you. It's the plant which can prepare its own food. And let me mention, it's a green plants which can prepare their own food. Thank you so much for answering. Okay, now going to the next question. There's an image for Indian independence movement. You can see here 1857 to 1947 is written over here. Yes, now we are coming to the next question, teachers. So the next question is, cite example of a few freedom fighters or martyrs who have led their lives for India's independence. Anyone you can write. Anyone you can write. Any freedom fighter you can write. Bhagat Singh. Thank you so much. We'll take 1 or 2 more answers. Gandhiji, Bhagat Singh, Mahatma Gandhi, Patel, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. I'm considering Netaji, yeah, Lala Lajpat Rai, Subhash Chandra Bose. Thank you so much. That's great. So we have successfully answered the second question as well. Now coming to the third question. Compare, you can see there are 2 images. a square and a rectangle. Now we have come to the third question, teachers. The square on the left and the rectangle on the right. Question is, compare how these two close geometrical figures differ. Compare how these two close geometrical shapes differ. Square is equal in all the sides? Yes. All the four sides? Yes. Four sides. Square has all four sides equal? Okay, the color in the image. Oh, wonderful. The square is yellow and the rectangle is blue. That's also a nice answer. Yes. By their sides and by their lengths. Okay. Okay. So I'm taking the answer like I'm just reformatting whatever you have said. Square has all the sides equal and rectangle has two opposite sides equal. Thank you so much. I have got the answers. Wonderful. Clap for the third question as well. And then coming to the next question, explain how the honeybees and the flowers are helpful to each other. What do they give each other? So you will have to critique on the connection. What is the relation between the honeybee and the flower? What is the relation between the honeybee and the flower? How do they help each other? Okay, very nice. Pollination, nectar, food, pollination, honey. Honey helps in pollination. Yes, wonderful. So I'm just rephrasing what you all are writing is the honey present in the flowers attract the honeybees. They go and hover and sit on the flowers, and after a time, while they get up, they are carrying all the pollens that are present on the body of the insect. And when they go from one flower to another flower, they successfully complete the process of pollination, as a result of which we can see large number of reproduction in the plants. Thank you so much. Wonderful. Now, hold on. It's a question that you have to justify. Is the image or is the diagram in the experimental setup correct? You have to just write yes if it is correct. You have to write down no while it is no. And if you find that there is some mistake, you can just write it in very short. What is wrong? If it is right, then it is yes. If it is wrong, then write a N, that is no, dash, and write the reason. What is the reason? It's a no. Yeah, I can see it's a no. Can you write down, one or two of you, why it is a no? Why is the image wrong? You think of the experimental setup. You are not happy with the image, I can understand. Hydrilla? Hydrilla has not created any problem. Why is the image wrong? You have to justify your answer. Justify the diagram drawn for the experimental setup is correct. Lamp position, excellent. I'm considering the position of the lamp is wrong. Okay, one. Second is oxygen bubbles. No, they are correct. Light, carbon dioxide does not rise. Lamp position is outside the funnel. That's okay. It can be outside because just light has to be supplied. So what is it? The test tube. I've got my answer. Excellent. See, I'm rephrasing what all you have written. The diagram is perfectly fine with the lamp outside. Hydrilla is also fine. There is no problem. The gas that is produced, that is bubbling up, effervescence is seen, that's also right. But the mistake is the position of uh, the test tube that is present over the conical funnel. That's the correct answer. Many of you have written test tube position. That's correct. The lamp's position is not wrong. It can be outside. Now coming to the last question. Now create a video of the students performing the experiments and speak about the precautions that must be taken. Now my question to this is, Many of you here are science teachers, or many of you may be present in the science laboratory when your students are performing this experiment. Do you often click in your mobile the videos of the session, I mean, the experiments that are being conducted, and do you share it in the class group or the Google Classroom or any other mask or any other platform? Yes, you do that. Okay, okay, okay. Yes, you do that. You create a video is what I'm taking. Handle the equipments with care. Yes. Yes. When your students are performing the experiment very well, you often click photographs to show that your children are following discipline. Thank you so much. I have got more or less all the right answers, and we have rephrased and we have come across. Now, uh, we are done with the questions, teachers. Now, see, I have used these words. You can see what all words have I used in the question. I have used the words identify, cite examples, compare, explain, justify, and create. These 6 words I have used, right? Yes? Are you all with me? Now you all have answered the questions, and even now you are answering me the questions. I can see the answers flowing. So, my question is, how did you answer? What helped you to answer? What helped you to answer? There were some difficult questions. There were some questions which were not so easy. You had to go back to your science teaching and science learning. Maybe here you are an English teacher and some questions were related to science. How did you answer? You have seen the common words, you have listened, and you have think. You are thinking, you are seeing the pictures, you are doing it through observation, identifying these pictures. You are question triggered thinking. Yes, right. See, you have written cognition, common verbs, identify, competency. Wonderful, wonderful. So you have all answered because of the scheme somebody has written. So you have answered because, like teachers were writing and still writing, that because we were compelled to think because of the images and the questions that were formatted correctly. If I had given you the question of, suppose, Maggie noodles and suppose a tiger, and I would have asked who cooks food, it would be very confusing for you. But because the questions were rightly framed and the images that triggered thinking and the knowledge base allowed you to answer. So you have answered from your head, from your brain, from your cognition, right? Watching, thinking, observation. Very nice. All of you have answered very nicely. And some of you have written Bloom's taxonomy. Think and guess. So nice. But we have answered from the domain of learning, which is called as cognitive domain. Yes, we'll not go into the word Bloom's taxonomy immediately. We have just answered from the cognitive domain or the head part of it. Yes. Now, coming to the next question. See, when your students perform the experiments, you must have seen they follow the steps that you, as a science teacher or as a geography teacher or as a maths teacher, you show them the steps. When you're reciting a poetry or reading out a topic from your English textbook or maybe Hindi textbook, they follow the same voice modulation that you follow, right? They do it, right? If you can type a yes, I will understand. Thank you so much. I can see the yes. Okay. Why do you think they are able to follow the step? What makes them follow the steps? Can we come to that? What makes them follow the steps? What allows them to follow the steps? Can any one of you tell me what allows them to follow the steps? Is it only discipline, or is it something that is supporting them? It is their understanding. Some of you have written they follow, Observing our demonstration. Yes, observing your demonstration. Anything else? Because they are understanding, they are thinking, they are observing. Practical approach, easy to listen and observe. Reasoning, yes. So if I rephrase all that you have written, it is actually your hand body movement coordination. That is from the hand part, we say the hand part of it, which is called as the psychomotor domain. Okay, this is the actual word that you have to henceforth use. So first we have seen the cognitive domain, now we are seeing the psychomotor domain. Now coming to the next part, now you will always see whenever you are doing some activity in the class, whenever you are engaging your classroom with a lot of activity based learning, small group strategies, different pedagogies, you will see your students learn the best. Somebody in the chat box has written best learning, right? They often are scared during exams. Okay, they enjoy in the classroom, but sometimes you will often find them scared. So as a teacher, you observe that students are very happy, sometimes students are sad, sometimes they're scared, sometimes they're so scared that they don't come to class, right? They feel that teacher will be showing us the marks and we may not score well. So you come across a different feelings and emotions expressed by the students. What controls those emotions? Those emotions of your students, what controls that? So we have come across the cognitive domain, which is the head, controlling their intelligence or knowledge. We have come across the psychomotor domain, which controls their physical movements. Now, my last question is yes, somebody has written affective, correct. So, emotions are controlled by the affective domain. We call that as the heart part. So, if we sum it up all, we have the three domains of learning. Those of you who are here already with me, you can take the screenshot of this. These are the three domains of learning, which is the head, the hand, and the heart. The affective domain or the heart part, it is actually taking care of the emotional and the social skills. The cognitive domain, which is a critical understanding and knowledge, and the psychomotor domain, which is actually taking care of the actions. Now, as a teacher, it is not only the textbook which we are going to see, we are going to bring about an overall development in the students so that they can become good citizens, good human beings first, and then certainly they will prosper and they will go ahead. With that very nice thought, let us check what we have learned till now. I'll be sharing with you a link of a question paper, that's a Google form, and you have to just write the, please come to the chat box. You will find there a Google form. There are only 5 questions, which is going to check whatever we have learned, and you can see if you have scored well. So you will have to write down what? Only C for cognitive, A for affective, and P for psychomotor, or you have to just tick, and I'll just wait and see how much you have scored. So we'll not invest more than 5 minutes for this. Have you all got the link? Check you are able to, if you are able to answer. I'll simultaneously share the questions over here. So if you're asked to recall the dates, what domain are you using? The cognitive, the affective, the psychomotor, or the social domain? What are you using? Just tick the answers. And question 2, a teacher encourages the students to express their feelings about a story they have read. It's not about what they have read, it's about the feelings. So what part is getting affected here? Third is if you have to perform a complex dance routine skills. complex dance routine requires the skills? Of course, it requires, and which domain is actually controlling that? Fourth question is engaging the students in a debate about ethical issues. Which domain is going to control that? And your students are role playing a historical figure to understand their perspective. It falls under which domain? So I think done. Oh, wow. Wow. Excellent. Excellent. I think you must have got your scores also. Thank you so much. Done. So nice. After I finish the session, I'll be able to understand how all you have performed. Are you all happy that you could answer the questions? Unable to find the link? Okay. I'll just share the link and I will proceed with the next part. It is there in the chat box. Yeah. Thank you so much. You've scored a 4 on 5, some teachers written. Very nice, teachers. It's okay, whatever you have scored, you are happy with your progress, and I'm also happy with your progress. So now let's proceed. Now, I think Shalini ma'am had shared with you all 3 stories. I mean, 3 write-ups. One was of STEM, that is science. The other one was of English, and the third one was of social science, right? So if you have all come across, read it, well and good. Otherwise, I'll just take out a moment. So we'll start with the STEM part, and I will just take you very fast through the STEM question, STEM content. The STEM content, science teachers, maths teachers, geography teachers, STEM teachers, was about photosynthesis. So I'll take you very fast because it was shared as a pre-read, but many of you may have missed it because of your busy schedule. So we are just taking you through. So the thing is that photosynthesis is the process by which green plants make their own food, and this is the chemical reaction for photosynthesis. Photosynthesis takes place only in green plants, and this is the structure of the chloroplast in which photosynthesis takes place. I think you all are able to see, right? And uh, it takes place in the granum, that is in the thylakoids. You can see the stacks of coin-like structure in which the chlorophyll is present. Chlorophyll is the green pigment. This is in detail about the structure of the chloroplast. There are 2 reactions, the light dependent and the light independent, which shows that photosynthesis can happen both during the light, when there is sunlight, or when there is an artificial source of light, and also it can happen in the absence of light. Now, photosynthesis is something, is a capacity of green plants only, right? And some algae and some bacteria. And photosynthesis is the primary reason by which the primary food producers, that is green plants, make their food, and then gradually it is transferred through the trophic levels in the food chain to all the other living organisms, and that's what maintains the ecosystem dynamics. Now, coming back to the questions that are there in the topic. I'll come back to the topic questions, and I would like you all to answer very fast. Name the green pigment that helps in the process of photosynthesis. Fast, fatafat. Yes, I can see the answer. It's written chlorophyll. The product of photosynthesis was starch. Very nice. Yes. Why are green plants called producer? Why are green plants? Excellent, excellent, excellent. I can get the answers of the first question. Now coming to the next one. Why are green plants called producers? Green plants are called producers because Because they make their own food. Yes, I have got the answer from two of you. Thank you so much. Now, coming to the next question. Because they produce their own food. Yes, thank you so much. Now, let's come to question number 3. What are the products of the process of photosynthesis? And I think some of you had already written carbon dioxide, water in presence of light energy, they produce starch. So they produce simple sugar and oxygen. Simple sugar and oxygen. Thank you so much. Yes. Simple sugar or glucose and oxygen. Thank you so much. Now, coming to the next part. Now, STEM teachers can take a bit of rest and we are proceeding towards the humanities. Now, the humanities question was the hare and the tortoise. You all know the story? Are you all aware of the famous story? Yes? Are you all aware of the famous story of the hare? Right? Humanities teachers? Yes or no? Yes, yes. Thank you so much. Okay. So let me come back to the questions. What was the hare? Yes. What was the hare known for in the forest? How was the hare, or what was the hare known? Hare was known for. The hare was known for. Should I share the question once again? Wait, let me share the pre-read of the humanities. Right, just wait for a minute. Yeah, I can get the answers. It was active, its speed, its fast running ability, fastest animal, fastest runner. Excellent, excellent. So I'm just sharing for those who have missed it. I'll just share the question with them. Just give me a minute. So this is the story of the hare and the tortoise. Many of you know this, and I think most of you know this. Okay. So this is where the hare comes, the hare comes, and he was very confident because he was the fastest runner. And as you know, the tortoise is very slow, and but he is persistent. So they again started the race, and again it so happened that history repeated itself. The confident and overconfident rabbit hare actually slept because he was much ahead of the other animal. So he slept, and the persistent animal, active and fastest learner, the persistent animal, it kept on doing its efforts, putting on the hard work, and finally it won. Okay, so that's what happens actually when you become overconfident. That's true. So I'll take you to the screen once again where I have my questions, and then we'll take up the questions in the chat. Okay. Now the question is, we have already got the answer for the first one. We'll take the second question. Why did the tortoise decide to raise the hare? Why did the tortoise decide to raise the hare? The second question. Yes, the tortoise was persistent, had confidence in itself that it could complete the race. Thank you so much. Nice answer. Because it was confident of its own abilities, it was confident, self confident, and it was dedicated. I can see the answers. He wanted to prove itself. Yes, that's very true. That's very true. Yes, I can see a lot of wonderful answers coming. Persistence, slow and steady, confident, and self motivated. Now, let's take the third question. How did the tortoise manage to win the race despite being slower than the hare? How did it manage? How did it manage? It was self confidence, yeah, dedicated, way to perform, attitude, because of his self confidence, running fast, wanted to. How did it win? It was so slow, but it was. The answers are coming up now. I think willpower, dedicated, dedicated, hardworking. Yes. Perseverance. Yes, that's the word. I have got the word. Thank you so much, teachers. Now the humanities teachers can take a brief period of rest, and I am proceeding towards the third group, that is the social sciences. Okay, social sciences. I'll just share with you what we had for our pre-read. I think most of you have it done, and we are going to discuss about the national freedom movement. You can see, we can see about the national movement, freedom movement in our write up, okay, which was already shared with you. Still I'm going through it, and just for a short reminder, and you all remember about the great freedom fighters and their contribution. A notable one that is discussed here is the Salt March in 1930. Gandhiji and his followers walked 240 miles to the Arabian Sea to make their own salt, defying the empire's monopoly to salt production. This act of peaceful defiance galvanized the nation, showing the power of unity and non-violence. So, what was the idea behind this salt movement and all that? Is basically that you need to boycott the British products, and you have to start being independent so that you do not depend on the British products. Swadeshi was the main idea that was highlighted. So, now we'll take up the questions, and give me a moment. I'll just share the screen. Yeah, and we'll take up the questions now. Now, the question is, who led the Salt March in 1930? Who led the Salt March in 1930? I think many of you have started writing the answers. It is Gandhiji. Thank you so much. Now, coming to the second question, many of you are writing Mahatma Gandhi, MK Gandhi. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now, coming to the second question, why was the Salt March an important event in the freedom movement? Why? Now, the question is why. First question was who. Now, second question is why. Why was the Salt March important? Yes, I can see the answers coming up as it was just about civil disobedience. Dandi, mass struggle. Yeah, nice answer. It was also to bring in the mind, like we said in the last statement, boycott. Yes, boycott what has come here, unity what has come, and self-sufficient what has come. It's coming here gradually now. Boycott the British product and start with the non-cooperation movement, and let the country get united and become independent and start its own Swadeshi movement. Thank you so much. So we have successfully completed all the three subjects that we have brought in over here. And I think the universe of teachers sitting over here fall either in the humanities group, science, STEM group, or in the social science group. So we have discussed all the questions. Now, teachers, question is not for you now. Now consider yourself in a classroom where the teachers have given these questions. You have all come across the content, but now the question is, considering the advanced progress involved in photosynthesis and structure of chloroplast, propose a novel method or technological advancement that would enhance the efficiency of photosynthesis in plants. How could this innovation impact global food security and ecosystem sustainability? Is this question little difficult? Is it difficult? May I get the response from you? See, we had given you the pre-read. As a teacher, you must have done the topic photosynthesis in the class. But when I have given this question, did you feel the question is difficult? Okay, you feel the question is difficult. Yes, correct. Okay. Now, humanities teacher has written, if the race had different obstacles that required problem solving skills, that's a puzzle to open a gate, or a riddle to cross a bridge. How might the hare and the tortoise's approaches to those challenges differ? Who do you think would win the scenario? Justify your answer with reasons. Question is not that the hare slept and somebody else won. Question is, if supposed to win, they would also need to use their head part. Would it be difficult? Would it be difficult? Question is, if you give such a question, the yellow part, question 2, would it be difficult for your teachers? Some of you have written yes, 50%. Okay. Now coming to the third question, it will be difficult. I can understand. No, it won't be difficult. Some teachers are telling, no, it won't be difficult. No, it won't be difficult. Think from the perspective of the students that if you have taught the story and if you had given this type of a question, most of you are saying yes, yes, a bit, use the head part, yes, I can understand. Now, the next question is, if Quit India movement had not occurred, you have studied the social science topic, we have discussed a lot, and now the question that goes to the student is, if the Quit India movement had not occurred, how might the timeline and the strategies of Indian freedom struggle have changed? Justify your answer with possible scenarios and reasons. Do the social science teachers think that this kind of a question would be difficult? Great dedication, conceptualizing skills make the task easier. Do you think social science teachers, if you teach that particular topic, I am not talking from the perspective of subject matter experts teacher. The questions have been given in the class. Your students need to solve this. The text questions that I had shared with you was for you all. Suppose that was taught in the class. And now your students are facing this kind of question in the assessment. Do you think it will be very difficult for your students? Yes, some of you are writing HOTS, higher order thinking questions. Students, yes. Okay. From the two students' perspective, you are writing the answer that yes, it would have been difficult. Okay. Many of you think so. So I am sharing with you. Can you please scan the code? Can you please scan the QR code and write down what you feel? I'll be sharing with you the response. Yeah. Please scan the QR code with your browser. I'll share the screen and see what you are giving me as answers. So when you are thinking, you will have to think from the perspective of the students, whether students will be able to answer the questions or not. How to scan? Okay, take your mobile. Here, go to Google. When you go to Google, you will find that there is one at the right hand side. There is a box like a lens. Okay, use it. Share the link. Uh, it is otherwise what you can go get is what you can do is you can go to menti.com. Okay, please scan this code. Wait a bit, let me share with you the code once again. Yes, I'm showing you the QR code. Scan the code. I use my mobile now. Yes, I'm sharing the code with you. menti.com, menti, menti.com. In your Google browser. So you go to another screen. Otherwise, in Google, you write down menti.com and use this code 51190898. Got it? Thank you so much. One teacher has got it. Yeah, see, I can see a lot of answers coming in. Thank you so much. Wait, I'll show you what our teachers are writing. It'll be great to see. See, now in teachers are writing that 35 students will be able to answer out of a class of 60 students, 5 to 10, 15 to 20, 25 students, 10 students can answer. I've got a few responses. 20 students can answer. Okay. Yeah. I'll go back to my screen and just give me a moment. So, teachers, you had with you 60 students, and you are saying that 5, 10, or 20 students can answer. As a teacher, you have done your job very well. I know you have taught it with the best of your efforts. As a student, the students have put maximum efforts. Whatever you have taught them, they have gone home. Still, some teachers are responding in the chat box 30 to 40 and 30 to 40% maybe. And some of them are writing 10, 10. Okay. So let's proceed with that and let's stay with that 100%, that is 60 on 60 students could not answer. That's the worry. As teachers, we cannot imagine that our students are able to answer entirely the questions. Okay. The thing is that as a teacher, you are putting the best of your effort. You are doing what all is required and going the extra mile to teach your students. Students are also obedient. They are attentive in the class. They are doing their homework. They are doing resource books. They are doing a lot of extra things that you are giving them. Still, the percentage is not 100%. Okay. Now the question is, what happened that you did not get 100% performance? Not all the three questions could be answered by all your students. What went wrong? What do you think went wrong? Yes, it did not happen. 100% results could not happen. What do you think went wrong? Where is the problem? Where is the problem? Because you have done your work the best. Individual differences, yes, of course, individual differences, because students are coming from different level of cognition. They are at different levels. Some could not understand, their thinking capacity may differ. Yes, of course, of course. Type of learning, yes, the learning style, the attention, they were not attentive during the class. Cannot invoke critical thinking and creative thinking. Okay, the teachers could not invoke their efforts, their focus, the teaching method, memory, understanding, abilities of the students. So I can see there are a lot of answers coming in, which is actually making me think about one particular common aspect of all educationists, that the reason behind the mismatch may be because we did not, as educators, plan the learning outcome well. Okay, there will be students we cannot ignore who will be at different levels, and that is what is expected. Students will be at different levels. Students cannot be at the same cognitive level. They will have different learning styles. Some will be visual, some will be auditory, some will be students who learn through reading, some will be, yes, teachers have written here that work can be a problem, kinesthetic, some different types of learners. But as a teacher, my role is to see that all my students are having a proper or whatever is the desired learning outcomes, right? So the idea may be that we have to revisit our learning outcomes, and let's think how we can make that happen. We can make that happen by using or by rethinking about the different levels our students are at. Now, are at different levels. So, when you start teaching in a class, you do have to think about the levels at which the students are. Some students may not be in a position where they remember a lot. So, you have to start your class by making them recollect what they have learned in the last class, which is connected to your present content, right? And then gradually you have to proceed with your new learnings, with your new teachings and their new learnings. So very methodically, based on the students being at the different level, they have different styles, there are differentiated approach, there has to be differentiated approach. The Bloom's taxonomy has given us these levels, and I believe all of you are well aware of these levels of Bloom's taxonomy, where we talk of the remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and the create levels. Right? Now, how are we going to make the best use of how are you going to make the best use of these levels? You can make the best use of these levels at the time when you are planning your topic. That is, when you are creating your learning outcomes. You can see here on the right, for these 6 levels, there are some words that are given, like define for knowledge, understand, summarize, solve for apply, contrast or connect for analyze, criticize, reframe, judge for evaluate, design, role play, develop for create. And if you remember, when I was going through the questions in the beginning, where I had given you the different images, I was using these words, right? So I had designed it in such a way that I can keep different questions at different levels, so that I can gradually take you from a very lower level, that is from your previous knowledge, to a higher level. When I asked you the last question, can you create a video of how well your students are performing during, or how well your students are imitating during a laboratory process? I had gradually taken you from very easy questions, that is the lower levels of learning, remember, understand, and apply, to gradually the new learnings, that is analyze, evaluate, and create. Are you all with me? Are you all able to understand? If you can write a yes. So these right hand side part that you can see, these are called as Bloom's action words. If you see, these are all action words. That is, English teachers call them verbs, right? The activity words are the action words. And this is what is going to make a difference in your teaching with your students. Now, how are we going to use this? If you want your students to recognize or remember or recall what they have learned, you can use these action words. So there are 3 columns you can see. On the left is the level, the second is what I'm speaking now, and the action words that can be used. So if you want your students to understand, interpret, translate, paraphrase, you can use the words like describe, explain, give, example. If you want them to apply the new knowledge that you have taught them and they have learned, so you can use these words, and gradually these are the higher level words. So according to Bloom's taxonomy, the remember, understand, apply are the lower level words, the lower levels of cognition, because they are somehow connected from the previous knowledge, while analyze, evaluate, and create at the higher levels of cognition. So these are the focused action words that you can use. And now I have a question for you. You have been teachers and you have been working intensely with your students. Okay. I think all of you can see my screen, right? And here, what have you found? Where are your students? Are they at a very high level, or they are at a very low level, or more or less they are at a medium level? If you can write at which level the maximum students are at your average level. So if I can say, will I be wrong if I say that your students are at maybe apply level? They remember, they understand, and whatever you teach them, they can, apply the new knowledge, right? You all are writing more or less medium. So when you are writing medium, I can understand that you are saying that they can apply. So now let's check how we can administer focused input for a better student learning outcome. Okay. Now, when I was giving you the questions for the SALT March, I was using these learning outcomes. And if you can see the highlighted words, I have used here recall, explain, apply, compare, and assess. And these are the learning outcomes that I had created before I created the questions for Gandhiji's Salt March. So if you can all see the word sentence written over there, I think you are all aware. Students will be able to remember, I have used the word recall. For understanding, I have used the word explain. For applying, I have used the word apply. For analyzing, I have used the word compare. And for evaluating, I have used the word assess. So these are the words that are used every time, what are called as the action words of Benjamin Bloom's cognitive level. And now for science, if you see, these are the words list, explain, illustrate, differentiate, assess. Similarly, for the hair story, we have used the word recall, summarize, demonstrate, analyze, critic, and design. So when much before I had come to you, when I was designing the question, I had first created my learning outcomes and then I had brought this to the class. How is it done? It's through a very simple acronym which is called SMART. What does SMART stand for? It stands for, please take a screenshot of this. This is very easily available and very sensibly to create your learning outcomes. It has to be very specific. What do you want to measure? What do you want to measure is specific. There are 2-3 things, but are you trying to measure whether your students are able to do addition of 2 digits or 3 digits? If you want your students to learn 2 digit addition, that should be your outcome. If you want your students to learn 4 digit addition, that should be your outcome. You have to be very specific. You cannot write they will learn addition, then it will not be useful at all. Some of them will learn 2 digits, some of them will learn 3 digits, some of them will learn 4 digit, and some of them may not learn anything. So you have to be specific as a teacher. It has to be measurable. If I say, yes, they have learned a bit, what is a bit? A bit is not measurable. You should be able to say they all know the multiplication tables till 5. That is measurable. But if you can say, yes, some of them know multiplication tables, that is not right. That is wrong. So it is not measurable. What will your students achieve? Your students are at an average level. You are creating the questions for the higher level. That is not something that you can achieve at the end of the session. No. Is it relevant? You are teaching something of way back it used to happen. Now modern technology is giving you something else. So which one should you teach? The old version or the new version? Certainly the new version. That is called relevant and also timely. See, a particular essay you can write in 10 minutes, in 1 hour, in 6 months. What is timely? You have to decide as a teacher how much time am I going to utilize for this particular topic. So this word smart is very critical for all teachers. And with that, I can can you please, all of you can scan this? Can you all scan this, please? Just check. Could you all scan it? Yes, time management, I can understand. So there is a question. Please scan this QR code from your mobile in the same way like you were doing. And there is a small assessment. Okay, so when the PPT will be shared with you, please play this. This is a small quizzy of 5 minutes. Okay, and you can do it on your own in your mobile. So I'll be waiting just for maybe 4 minutes and you will complete that. And then we will proceed. If you can, please write a yes. Why? Can't scan? You can't scan? Okay, so when I'll be sharing with you the presentation, Shalini ma'am will certainly be sharing with you certain things, then you can scan this. I'll be sharing with you. Okay, many of them are able to do. Okay, some of you have done, and those who can do, I think they will enjoy the game. Those who can't, please don't worry. I'll share the link of this game with you, and then you can play this game. Yeah, so we will proceed because I think many of you are yet not able to scan. Those who are now able to scan, uh, okay, no problem, teachers, no problem. Okay, now we are coming to the second part of our content, that is we have seen how we can use create it's okay, teachers, we can scan. When you will get the, you will have some post read after the session. Shalini ma'am will be sharing with you. Okay, so you will be able to play this game. This is a fun game made in an edutech tool that is called as Squizzy. It's okay if you cannot scan, you don't have to worry. You will all get this and you can play. It was not an evaluation, it was just a fun game. Now, coming to the second part, we have seen learning outcomes. Now we are coming to the second part. Whenever you are using a particular word, that is action word, in a learning outcome, please use the same word to create the assessment. Like I had used the word explain in social science. Now I am using the word explain to create the question for social science. What's my question? Explain the significance of non-violence resistance in national freedom movement in 150 words. See, my question is very clear. I have also mentioned how many words are required to write it. So I have made it very specific and measurable, right? Now see, list the key components of photosynthesis, state the overall equation of photosynthesis. These are assessment, but what I want you to see over here is the first word, like explain, list, summarize. These are words which were used in the learning outcomes. What I'm trying to make here, or what I'm trying to tell here is, whenever you are creating a learning outcome, you are using a particular word from Bloom's taxonomy, action word from Bloom's taxonomy. The same word, remember, the same action word has to be used to create the assessment if you want to find the best student learning outcome. So look at the words that I have used over here once again: explain, list, summarize, compare. And always remember that you have to use the lower order questions. That is, remember, understand, apply should have less weightage, while the higher order questions, that is the analyze, evaluate, and create, they should have more marks in the question paper. So remember and understand can be of 1 mark, apply can be of 2 marks or 3 marks, evaluate, analyze, and create can be of 3, 4 to 5 marks in your question paper. Also, please ensure that one question is measuring only one skill. Like, for example, if you see the second question here, right hand side top, list the key components of photosynthesis. This is one question. So your students will have to list it down. Second question is state the equation. See, these are two different questions, or 1 mark each. So your question should not be having the measurement of more than one skill. So here you are listing, that is one skill. Second skill is state the overall reaction. These are two different things you are measuring. Therefore, you are using two different questions. Right? Now, this is what you have to follow on the right hand side bottom. First thing is you have to use the same action word, and the lower orders have less weightage, higher orders have more weightage. And of course, yes, correct. If concept is clear, students can answer the higher order questions easily than lower order questions. Lower order questions will come to them very easily. You don't have to struggle much. And of course, you will have to design the learning outcomes in such a way that it gets aligned with your assessment. Now, why are we talking of diagnostic, formative, and summative assessments? Okay, what are we talking of over here is assessments. So when we are talking of assessments, we bring in the three main assessment: diagnostic, which is done in the beginning of the class; formative, which is an ongoing process; and summative, which is done at the end. So what is data informed decision? Some students may be very smart while they are speaking, but they may not be so smart while they are coming to a situation where they have to answer. This is where your students will get a support from you once you take a data informed decision. How much marks is the child getting? Is the child very good with the communication skill, not with the writing skill? So once you have the diagnostic test done, you will be able to understand how they are scoring and in which aspect. Like somebody mentioned in the beginning, the VARK model, right? So you will be able to take a decision on what is the strength of the child based on the marks, and this will help you as a teacher to create assessments as per the needs of the students, right? So we have already brought in the two aspects: learning outcomes and assessment. Now coming to a very, very important aspect, which is called competency statement. So if you all can read, competency statements are speaking of specific knowledge, skills, and abilities that learners are expected to demonstrate as a result of an engagement process by the engagement process by the teachers. So that is your competency statements. Now, competency statements also must be very clear, measurable, student centered, focusing on what the learners should be able to do rather than what they just should know. They should be able to do that. Okay, this is competency statement. And if you go by the national curricular framework, these are some of the guidelines. Okay, so we have to focus on the holistic development. In the beginning only, we have discussed what is holistic development. So a child cannot be catered only by the cognitive level. The head, the hand, and the heart, all the three things should be brought together. That is the cognitive domain, the affective domain, and the psychomotor domain should be brought in together while you are teaching a lesson. Also, they will be different if you go to the second part, learner centered approach. What type of student do you have? Do you have the students who are visual learners, or auditory learners, or they are reading and learning, or they are learning through the body. So if you want to, quite rightly said by some teacher, if you want to bring in the overall learning of the student, you have to focus on your VARK model rather than going by the temporary approach. And all your students should be able to come across questions or activities which touches the VARK model. So your lesson plans should have all that. Okay, coming to the third part, what is it that you are going to do to bring in competency and skill? That is the cognition level, that is knowledge and skill. They have to be brought. So a lot of discussion around real life connection has to be made by you as a teacher. You just can't read the topic and go away. You just can't give the sums and go away. You just can't give the demonstration and go away. It has to be integrated in such a way that we gain the knowledge and skill aspect. Also, along with that, we have to think on the higher order. That's the hot part. Higher order thinking. How are you gradually going to develop? Because you are the teacher, you are the whole and soul of the child. You have to decide in your lesson plan how you can develop gradually, very slow, but definitely like the tortoise, we have to have a continuous progress on the higher order thinking questions. We have to definitely not speak something that is so flowery and that is absolutely not connected with real life. So it has to have real life context. We have to include everybody in our learning lesson planning. So if there is a child who requires remediation, how am I going to address that inclusivity and equity in our through our learning outcomes, through our lesson plans? We have also to give them the ethical and the value based education that we are always talking of, that how do you become a responsible, empathetic person and a citizen who is expected to have these qualities. So, social skill incorporation is a very important thing. You are not going to teach any topic alone. If you're teaching science or if you're teaching social science, try to integrate questions, discussions, which is called interdisciplinary learning. You are also going to be flexible when it comes to assessment strategies, because there are students at different levels and everybody has to be catered. It is not the best students of the class alone whom you are going to serve. No, not at all. You are also going to see how comprehensive and continuous evaluation can be done by using a variety of assessment. It's a diagnostic, formative, summative, unit test, different type of assessment which will be a continuous process in your learning plan. Okay, so now these are some of the words that I have brought from the English piece. After the session, we will be sharing with you the science and the social science pieces. Here, I would urge you only to see. Okay, very nice. Some teacher has written, we do in our school social emotional learning, uh, where we do interdisciplinary learning. Excellent, very nice. So here are some of the words which I have underlined, like for example, cognitive competencies, comprehension and analysis. It can be summarized, identify and describe, analyze the moral. Now, when you are doing a critical thinking and problem solving, there is some teachers who are writing 21st century skill, you have to evaluate the action. Okay, what did the hare do? What did the other animals do? You have to identify the obstacles. These are real life connections. When you are talking of emotional concept of the social skills, you have to ensure empathy and respect towards each other. Was the hare and the tortoise behaving well with each other? This is where through the stories you are going to bring all these aspects. Also, you are going to bring the aspect of resilience and perseverance. See, it kept on trying and trying and finally it won. So these are examples that we are actually setting in the real life connection, and these gradually percolates in the mind of the students, as a result of which the students turn into better human beings, better citizens. Now, when we talk of communication skills, we can use or think of the words like, are they able to recall the story? Are they able to write it on their own? It's not everything that a teacher has to do. It's, of course, what the student also has to do. Now, when we talk of collaboration, we talk of group activities. And, when we talk of collaborative learning, we talk of a lot of social skills along with the cognitive skills. We talk a lot of hand activities, how they behave, are they hitting each other, are they sitting and are they able to perform, is everybody at the same level, bringing all these things together. And you have to see that all the different levels of the students are being touched. Some of them are writing, going to do them in my, you people are using it in your teaching. Very nice. I'm so happy to hear. Also, when you take your students to a very higher level of creative expression, are they able to do things on their own? So the underlined word over is alternative ending. See, all of us know certain things will happen, but can it happen differently? That's the question. That's where your role is, because the textbook is given you what is normal. Can you think in addition to what is normal? This is where is your role, and that's where comes creativity and innovation, wherein you will bring the word design, create, and all that. Definitely, like we were talking, the work model also, we are talking of the different skills, that is LSRW skills. Are we incorporating it? And when we talk of LSRW, it's not English alone, it's always all the subjects. Even in science, also, are they able to listen? Are they able to read it? Are they able to comprehend it? Are they able to speak it? So any skill development is not for a particular topic, is what we have to remember. Also, how are you integrating technology? You have seen some of the pieces of technology we have also used today in our session, and it makes the session very engaging. Similarly, you can also use them and also bring in civic competencies of how they can become responsible citizens, exactly the way we want, or our country wants, or our country needs in the future. So we have discussed with learning outcomes, we have discussed how learning outcomes, words, action words can be used for assessment, and also competency statements. You will get these, this preparation that is there in the presentation, along with a post read. Please go through them. We have discussed here only English, but we have in our post read, we have it for social science as well as for science, STEM. You will get it all. Now, again, let's take a break from so much of listening. This is the word pedagogy, but in pedagogy, there are a few hidden words. I have mixed them all. The 8 pedagogies, according to the National Curricular Framework, or what is expected. Can you find out the words and write down in the chat box? And very fast, we'll just take 2 minutes. Can you find out the words that are hidden? Hidden words in classroom orchestration. Can you find out the words? What is written? Hidden words. Storytelling. Yeah, very nice. ICT. Okay. ICT integrated. Yes. Pedagogy. Pedagogy. Yes. Toy pedagogy. God. God was not written. Activity based. ICT. Very nice. Inquiry based. Thank you. Rhymes. Theme based. Play based. Storytelling. Body. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, these are the 8 pedagogies, and as teachers, bringing in competencies, bringing in learning outcomes, bringing in Bloom's cognitive, affective, psychomotor domain. We are going to see a few examples, and it will be around these 8 pedagogies. So, what are they? I'm reading it clockwise. Now, please try to follow. Inquiry based, art integrated, ICT integrated, storytelling, toy based, play based, activity based, and theme based. Thank you so much, teachers. You are still writing. I'm so happy. At least you are trying to find it out. So, these are the 8 pedagogies which we as educationists are expected to incorporate in our everyday classroom teaching. Now, I have a question. Suppose it's myself, it's me. Myself is a topic which is generally taught in EVS or in English, right? If I ask the maths teacher, the science teacher, the social science teacher that in this week we all are going to teach myself across grade 1 to grade 10, is there a possibility we can do? Can we do it? And if yes, how can we do it? If you can write it in the chat box, then I'll show you what is my idea. Active Can the topic myself be conducted by science plus maths plus language plus arts plus SST teachers teaching in a week, and it is across grades from grade 1 to grade 10? Yes, 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 yes. Teachers are responding. Yes, in different levels. Yes. Thank you so much. Okay, so you are all one. Can you tell me the pedagogy that we can use over here? Much before that, I was just missing on one thing. These are interdisciplinary learning that we have just discussed, that science should not be taught alone. Science has to have a lot of friends. Social science, English, arts, maths, geography, history, everything should come together. And this is one of the focus areas of competency statements. So let me give you an idea of how I would do it in my class. Okay. So, see, social science will research on family histories. The students will come up and test back and say, listen, I am from Punjab. I stay in Madhya Pradesh, but my family's what, this and that over there. They will talk of their backgrounds. Suppose somebody is coming from a very rare tribe, they'll be discussing. So we can integrate them and we can bring it as a discussion. So your students communicative skill, research skills, discussion with the parents, discussion at home, lot of discussion among your friends will increase. Those who do not know that there are different culture, different background, different communities across our nation, they will come to know that not everybody has the access to internet, but definitely discussions will bring in all those things. Language. We can encourage students to write autobiographical narratives, explore significant events, people, experiences they have shared. So I have met suppose a film star. They can speak about that. How was the film star? What was so special? How is the film star different from common people? If they bring that in the discussion. Science, they can talk about their body. The a science group can go to a biology lab, and they can even go to a physics lab, and they can even measure. They can even discuss about the different parts of the skeleton. So you can take them to a lab. Okay. Now the health education teacher, or the maybe the PT teacher, they can come up and discuss about some of the yoga, some of the stress management techniques, some of the the emotions, how we can build in empathy among each other, what are the problems, why we cannot touch with people, why we always fight. These kind of discussions can happen. We can also bring in mathematics over here in myself, right? We may feel that is it possible, because mathematics is such a topic which has to have a discussion around maths and numbers and all that. How is it possible to discuss mathematics at all? But yes, you can compare age, you can convert the age from years to the months, to the months, to the days, to the days, to the minutes and seconds and hours and all that. So there can be a discussion even of vital statistics. How broad is your shoulder? Are the shoulders for the boys and the girls the same or different, and why? Why is the shape of the boy's body very different from the shape of the girl's body? This kind of discussions. And for arts also, we can design collage representing interest. I'm very fond of making rangoli. That person is very fond of making puppets. So can we make puppets? Can we make rangolis design? Something that I like. Myself is not about only discussing my name and where I stay and what is my father and what is my mother. What I like, what I dislike, why I dislike, all these kind of discussions can be brought in through theme based learning. And like rightly one of our teachers in the chat box has stated, that we can bring it across. So what will pre-primary do, what will primary do, middle school do, and secondary school do, can be brought in. And 1 week of myself, where you can invite the parents, you can invite teachers and students from other school. There can be a discussion, maybe your computer lab, and or maybe your laboratory, or maybe in an open space in your school, you can do that. So that's called theme based learning. You will get a lot of write ups about all these things, and please go through them and try to implement them. Yes. Now coming to something very interesting, where I am actually asking you to think of a hypothetical situation where I'll be showing you a video, and you have to think that some now the that particular thing is not existing. So watch the video very carefully, and this is hypothetical, this is not real. But why I am doing this is something that I'll tell you after we have the discussion. Okay, so now just pay attention to the video, it's really interesting.
Name Mrs. Thapar. Age 36 years. Designation former wildlife conservationist. So presently at home spending time with her kid. चिड़िया
उड़
तोता
उड़
पीकॉक
उड़
गाय
mhm,
शेर
mm,
शेर
mm,
शेर
उड़
Okay, so it was a very small video, and there was a question after that. Did you notice that question? Yes. Did you notice that question? Did you watch the video? Could you all watch the video? May I get a yes?
Yes, Sudeepa, it was
Thank
audible
you.
and visible. Yeah.
Okay. So it was hypothetical, as I said, right? It is not something that is reality. But I am trying to get some answers from you. My question is, did you see the child not able to answer the type of movement of the tiger? Chidiya, it said wood, means it is able, it knows, it is able to relate to the real life and say that a bird flies. But what about a tiger, shade? What about that animal? It doesn't know. The child didn't know that. Why do you think the child didn't know that? Can you please answer that? Might be the child thought the tiger jumped, it means it flies. Okay, because it's a domestic animal. Yes, I've got the correct answer from the chat box, and I'm selecting it because it has never seen the tiger. And this is very hypothetical. But why I brought in this discussion is, till the last few years, we were just struggling with 3,500 tigers in an entire uh, nation. In our country, we had just 3,500 tigers. We were just struggling with conserving them. Therefore, you can see the name of the topic of discussion today is, are you responsible for animal conservation? As a teacher, I am asking you, are you responsible? So, keep yourself in my place. Ask your students, are you responsible? So I have started with this hypothetical video which says that tigers are already extinct. Now my question, to you is, just wait. Now my question to you is, what could have been the reason for tigers to get extinct? Do any one of you know this answer? Can you answer? There are 2, 3 questions. Why did the animals contemporary to a tiger, like for example, they knew about the I should not disturb the natural cycles, it might disturb us. Okay. Hunting, cutting down of trees, deforestation for their skin, poaching. These are the correct answers. But at the same time, the cow was evidently seen over there. The tiger was not seen. What is the reason? Do you know the reason for this? Yes, you may or you may not know. Similarly, when you ask critical thinking question, your students may or may not know. What you will have to do over here is just to take them to a research based study of why. Make them think about why it happened, make them think about why it has not happened. So just catering to answers is not what we are seeing as educationists. You have to create the inquisitiveness and the critical thinking. That is what I am actually trying to do. That a cow remained alive, a buffalo remained alive, but a tiger was extinct. What was the reason, right? Now, in the next part, I am driving you to say, do an independent research and document your research. This is what, as teachers, you are going to do, and they'll come up with their own research. Now, you can form small groups and they can collaborate and they can present to their classmates what they have got. You can also gradually ask them questions related to whatever research they have done, right? And see, through a very engaging and research based process, you have done the activity of a critical thinking question, or maybe a higher order thinking question. Are you responsible for animal conservation? So, what are the steps that I have followed over here? I have given you a thought in your mind. I have given you a question in your mind, that is active learning and critical thinking. Then I have given you some questions which you need to answer individually. Then I have given you a research that you have to do individually. Then I have brought in collaboration, so that 3 steps, you are working individually and you are doing your active learning. Then comes collaboration, the skills of social learning, and then comes your facilitation skills. From all the research that your students have brought in, you are asking them some more questions to close the expected student learning outcome or the learning outcomes of this topic. So if you design your topic like this pedagogy is called as the inquiry based learning, where you are not giving them answers to a question. However, you are guiding them, facilitating them, bringing them together to make learning easy. Now, I'll be taking you through another activity based learning question, where you can see these 2 images, right? One is a ball and the other is a feather, right? The left hand side is a ball and the other one is a feather. I think you all can see this. My very simple question, if you drop them from the room where you are sitting right now, which will fall faster, the ball or the feather? Please write down ball or feather in the chat box. Which will fall faster in the normal condition? Very nice. The question is, the answer is ball. Okay. Okay. Yeah, ball. Oh, somebody wrote feather also in between. Okay. Chicken. Very few feathers, mostly a ball. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So the right answer is the ball. Now coming to the next part of it. Question is, now I empty the whole room from air. There is no air inside it. Now this room where you are sitting is evacuated. I've sucked out the air. You are sitting in a vacuum now. From there, we drop the same two things, the ball and the feather. Now you predict. And you tell me which will fall faster, the ball or the feather. Predict and tell me, in the evacuated condition, in the vacuum, which will fall faster, the ball or the feather. Ball, feather, ball, feather, ball, feather, ball, feather, fall, feather, ball, feather, ball, feather, ball, feather. Yeah. Okay. So I'll be showing you a video. Okay. Just wait a while. I'll show you a video because I can see, oh, some of them are writing, some of you are writing none. Okay, no. Something certainly will happen, right? If I have brought in the question, something will certainly happen. So let me show you a video. Please observe, okay?
Used to test spacecraft in the conditions of outer space, and it does that by pumping out the 30 tons of air in this chamber until there are about 2 grams left. And it's kind of got an eccentric construction, which is part of its history. It was built in the 1960s. Aluminium is not the best thing, the strongest material to build a vacuum chamber out of. So they built an outer concrete skin, which is part radiation shielding and part an external pressure vessel. So this thing can take the force that's present on the outside when it's pumped out to the conditions of outer space. Galileo's experiment was simple. He took a heavy object and a light one and dropped them at the same time to see which fell fastest.
So teachers, in the first case, who all have answered that the ball will fall first, is correct. So a big clap to you all. So this was the first question that I had asked you. Now watch the video to answer the second question where you had doubt, right?
Now, in this case, the feathers fell to the ground at a slower rate than the bowling ball because of air resistance. So, in order to see the true nature of gravity, we have to remove the air. It takes 3 hours to pump out the 800,000 cubic feet of air from the chamber.
Okay, we dropped 2 Millitor in the last 30 minutes.
But once it's complete, there's a near perfect vacuum inside.
6104 manual, 10% open. Station 1, go for drop. PCB 30-1, pressure set point at 240 psi. We are go for drop.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Cameras on.
2, 1, release.
Exactly.
Look at that.
They came down exactly the same. Wow.
Look.
That's right there. Look at how they hit right there.
Exactly.
You're back aside.
Did you all notice that both at the same time? So, as students, and I being a teacher, I have just facilitated you through a video. Similarly, you can facilitate the process everywhere video may not be possible. You may facilitate the process through reading. Okay, you may facilitate the process through a demonstration experiment. You may facilitate the process through a simple research based activity. Go to the playground and find out these 3-4 things. Go to the laboratory and find out these 3-4 things, right? This is a very famous experiment which is called as the Galileo's experiment. See, I have done with you in a very different way. This pedagogy is called as a predict, observe, explain pedagogy, in which the students are allowed the free and safe space to predict whatever they know. See, so many of you have joined, and I do not know who has written ball and the feather, who has written a right answer or a wrong answer. So you have completely been given the allowance to make mistakes. Please make mistakes, because this pedagogy tells you about misconceptions. If you don't know something, that is a misconception. If you know something wrong, that is misconception. As a teacher, it is my duty to clear it in your mind, that why this misconception. You may have felt that both of them will come together. You may have felt that the ball being heavy may come together, but actually in evacuation it does not happen, because friction does not play its role, right? This you came to know only when you saw the video. So this was awakening for many of you. Of course, many of you knew this, but this strategy or pedagogy allows to build in the conceptual knowledge, clears the misconceptions, and for the explain phase where I have written why is not your role. That is the role of the student, that the student will come and say that this happened because there was no friction in the room. Therefore, weight concept, mass concept does not come into existence. This is your student's role. So this pedagogy is called as the POE, and it is applicable for all the subjects across. Here I have brought in a video for science. However, it can be done across all the subjects. Now, chalo, let's play the last game. Okay, and we have a few questions. I'll ask you a very few, don't worry. I'll spin the wheel. Just give me a moment. Okay, you all can see the wheel, right? Now, I have the acronyms of some. I'll be spinning the wheel, and whichever comes, you have to just write down the full form of that. I don't know what will come. Oh, wow. What is the full form of Nipun? Anybody? What is Nipun all about? What is Nipun all about? Nipun Bharat, Nipun Lakshya. What is Nipun all about? If any one of you can say. Skill development, yeah. NEP, okay. Skill development. Is it anywhere connected with your foundational literacy and numeracy skills? Foundational literacy and numeracy skills. Yeah. Oh, so this is for you as a homework. I'm leaving it for you as a homework. I'll take 2 more and let's see if you remember these words. STEM. What's the full form of STEM? What's the full form of STEM? National Initiative for Proficiency. Now the answer has come. Yeah. What is the full form of STEM? STEM. Yeah, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Thank you so much. I'll take one more. What is SCERT? What is SCERT? We all are so much into SCERT concepts. Every state has it. What is SCERT? Anybody? State Council of Educational Research and Training. Thank you so much. So we have taken 3 and we have a lot more in that quiz, but we'll not be able to take so much. However, when Shalini ma'am will be sharing with you, you will be able to enjoy it with your colleagues in the staff room. Maybe someday when you have the teachers meeting, you can take it. The idea behind doing this was to bring into your mind at the remember and the understand level, how much of it do we recollect when we say mnemonics. We use mnemonics, but what is the full form of such mnemonics? So ICT integration in pedagogy is a very strong tool where you see a lot of engagement and it happens very fast. Also, it saves your workload. You don't have to keep on creating and recreating things time and again. So using these for appreciation tools, using these for assessment tools will be very helpful here. You can see here in the PPT, appreciation and assessment are underlined because there are some links attached to it. How you are going to create a certificate free of cost and share it as a soft copy to your students. You will get it through Canva. Now, these are some approaches as pedagogies which we generally use in the form of art integrated pedagogy. I'm running you through these things fast because we already have the post-read documents which ma'am will be sharing with you. Okay, so art integration in pedagogy, we do it in different forms. In the smaller class, maybe Rangoli can be an art integration. In the higher class, middle class, it can be tangrams or cutting of papers into shapes can be art integration. In the senior class, how you color geometrical figures may be an art integration to understand congruency of triangle. So how you are bringing it is your caliber, is your expertise. Again, toy based is something, toy based and play based are very similar. However, we are looking at things that are easily available, and these are some of the toy based techniques like physical, social, constructive, fantasy, and structured games and toys, which can be integrated and it can be shared with the students so that they remain engaged. And something that all teachers like and all teachers do and all educationists do is the storytelling technique. The best way to engage and the best way to get the outcomes. It is so engaging, and these are some ways by which you can plot a story in your mind very fast. You can have a plot, you can set 3 characters, you can set where the characters are and why am I creating the story. So in the beginning, you bring in the characters and then you bring in some tussle and some type of, attention seeking things, and then you take them to the climax where you take your students to think what's happening next, and then you gradually bring them to the solution approach with a very possibly a very positive, statement to bring in a nice closure to the story. So stories can be crafted very easily, and stories remain in the mind. See, all the folklores that we have heard from our grandparents are nothing but stories which are integrated with our culture. So as teachers and educationists, it is the best way to connect, and you think they will remember it even when they are in an exam hall, that my ma'am had framed the story this way, and that helped me to write the answer. It's a big achievement for you. Now, if you remember from the 5 o'clock session to now, we have brought in learning outcomes, we have used the smart words to create assessment, and we have designed our lesson plan in such a way that these two can be brought in through the pedagogies that we have done. Lot more of pedagogies can be incorporated. I have brought in the ones which are actually right now to be used compulsorily by all educationists as a part of the national curricular framework. So integrating these three pieces in the form of a triangle, this is called as the magic triangle of learning, also called as the constructive alignment theory. You will get a lot of research paper in Google and all that, Google Scholar and all that, which is called as the constructive alignment. If you type constructive alignment theory, you will get that it is an integration of learning outcome, learning activities, and assessments, which completes your class and supports you to bring the best student learning outcome. Thank you so much for being there. Over to you, Shalini ma'am.
Thank you so much, Sudeepa. That was a very, very interactive session. And thank you, teachers, for being involved to such an extent. I don't think there was a moment of, time when the chat box was not active. We had so many comments coming in, everybody replying and responding to queries. That was a great, great session. Teachers, we faced a little bit of technical glitch through the program. Some of your friends may not have been able to join because we suddenly had a restriction on the number of participants. Please ask them not to be worried. We will be sending out a message as to how they will be able to access the recording of the program that happened today, right? So Sudeepa ma'am's session will reach them as well. And once they finish watching the entire recording, they will also be eligible to receive the certificate, right? So nothing lost, no worries at all. In case any of your peers from your school reach out to you saying that they were unable to join, please tell them that they need not be worried, and they will be able to watch the recording and also get the certificate for the same, right? Great. So thank you so much, teachers. Sudeepa ma'am had been talking about the post-read material. We will be sending out the post-read material, which will be connected to what was discussed in this session. Please go through it. It contains a lot of insights. It's a very in-depth document, and I'm sure all of you will be benefited by it. Once again, another reminder, please do take that 5 minutes time to fill in the feedback form. This helps us to know what you thought of the webinar, and also for us to design better programs, things based on what your requirements are, right? And again, your certificate of participation from OUP will come to you in the email inbox of the mail ID that you used to register for this session. Thank you so much, Sudeepa ma'am. This was indeed a great time that we all spent together with you, understanding competency and outcome-driven learning.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and really liked, the enthusiasm and the spirit of the teachers, and also your support. I was not able to understand actually whether am I audible or not. Yeah.
Oh, yes. I don't think that way we did not face any glitch. And I think that was a great session.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, teachers, now the session is about to end. Have a great evening and have a great weekend as well. Bye bye.
Bye.